Everyone, welcome to the Bay Area Content Marketing Meetup. I think we took a 2-week break, but we're back. And today we're featuring Kyle Akerman. Kyle's a Chicago-based Google Analytics consultant who's in Arizona. Kyle's going to talk to us about the 5 things content marketers need to track in Google Analytics. Kyle, thanks for joining us, and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. And thank you, everybody, for giving me some portion of your lunchtime. I know many of you are on the West Coast. So just thank you for your time and attention. So today we're going to be talking about 5 things that you should track in Google Analytics as a content marketer. Hold on, not advancing. Okay. So quick review of the topics I want to hit on. So I'm going to set things up first by just explaining how the data is organized in Google Analytics, because that's going to become important, as we will see. I'm going to talk about the one thing to do before you ever even log in that'll help you as you try to track things. I want to tell you about some content that is not measured by default in Google Analytics, and what you can do to make sure that you are measuring it. And then we're going to get to the meat of this, the top things to track, why those things are important, and where you can find that data. So quick review of Google Analytics. The one thing that I think we all know is that it's really complex. So you open up your analytics and you see just all of these reports, and it can be a little intimidating. You can even drill down within these to get even more reports. So I don't need to show you all of them, but just know that there's hundreds of reports. The dirty little secret that nobody really makes clear, I don't think, is that you really only need maybe 20%. That number might even be lower. The challenge is which reports. And so I'm going to try to help you out with some of that today. Because otherwise, this is us as we think about Google Analytics. So what can we do to reduce this complexity? So the first thing I want you to remember is that Google Analytics, it's just a tool for answering questions. So you have marketing questions, you have business questions, and you want answers to those. Just your basic who, what, where, when type journalistic questions. At a very high level, what Google can help you answer is, who's visiting your site, what are they doing on the site, what traffic sources did they come from, and maybe how well things are working. So the one thing that I think will help you each time you go into analytics, before you ever even go into analytics, is make sure that you have a list. I want you to write out a list. You don't have to literally write it out, but maybe type it out. Just have it. Make a list of the content-related questions you want to answer. And this helps you, having this list and writing it out, it helps you narrow your focus, because now you're only looking for answers to a few specific questions. That should help reduce the complexity of GA, because you'll find those few answers in a handful of reports, and then hopefully that'll provide less stress because you can ignore everything else. So some examples of content questions you might want to answer, how do people find our content? What are the most popular blog pages? What keywords do people use to find our content? That kind of thing. Just to give a quick little visual summary of how Google Analytics works, I like to share this diagram from the team at Orbit Media. You may know Andy Crestodina. He put this together. Basically, on the left, you've got cookies and JavaScript, and those talk to each other. Your computer, your device gets cookied. The JavaScript is the Google Analytics code on your website. That sends things over to Google Analytics, to Google servers, and then they crunch all that data and send it to you in the form of reports. Now, the things that they measure and that you can see, it's things around like traffic sources, devices people come to your site on, pages they view, maybe how they move around your site. But there's also a bunch of things that are not measured by default. And I don't know if everybody knows this. So some of those things are actually types of content that we are all producing now, and we might not be able to track them without a little additional setup. So here's just a handful of things that are not measured by default. So video interactions, if you do anything, if you have YouTube videos on your site, none of that is measured. If you have downloads, that's not measured. Any kind of clicks, goals, email visits, none of this stuff is measured by default. The good news is we can make some modifications to get this tracking into Google Analytics. So just very quickly, I moved everything into this column. So this is what's not measured. And here's the things you need to do to get it set up. So goal conversions, that type of thing, that's just doing some setup within GA. If you want to track your email traffic visits or specific campaign visits, then you'll need to use UTM campaign tags. And I'm going to show you that a little bit later. The one that's probably the most difficult is setting up what we call events. So if you want to measure, say, video interactions, well, right now in the current analytics, you have to set up events. And the easiest way to do that is in Google Tag Manager. I'm not going to get into Tag Manager much, but I will talk a little bit about these events. So one thing out of all this list, one thing that I think you should definitely set up as soon as you can, if you don't have it, is goal conversions. And the reason for that is we need to know what success looks like. Obviously, you know what it looks like on your site. You know, if you're e-commerce, then, you know, purchases, that's the easy one, but maybe success is somebody signing up for something, scheduling an appointment, but Google doesn't know what success is on your site. So we have to tell it. And we do that through something called conversion goals. Now there's four types of goals. The one that we use the most is the destination goal. And that's basically just a specific page. So that usually comes in the form of like a thank you page. So the example here, it's a thank you newsletter. So this means that somebody filled out a form to sign up for your newsletter. So once you've got this goal set up, you'll start to see it. You'll see goal information in your reports. So here you get a conversion rate, you get the raw number of conversions, and then you can start to compare those, you know, to the dimensions in your report, and you can get a better idea of what's working. So I know many of you offer B2B services or work with B2B companies. So your goals could be things like, did somebody download a case study? Did they request a demo or a quote? And, you know, did they schedule an appointment? So one last thing to review about Google Analytics before we get into the things to track. This is how's the data organized? So at a very high level, you've got accounts, properties, and views. They kind of work like a family. So account, imagine, is like the grandparents, property is the parents, and view is the children. And you're going to be, all your data you're going to be looking at is in this view. And then you have a very easy way of remembering how these reports are organized. And that's the ABCs. We're going back to, I don't know, kindergarten, learning our ABCs. So when you go into your analytics, you'll see these reports on the left-hand side. They're actually groupings of reports. So when I zoom in on that box, we see that it's acquisition, behavior, and conversions. Now, it may not be obvious how those groupings can help you, and hopefully this will give a little more insight. Those category reports, they line up with stages of your funnel. So looking at here, I just took like a traditional AIDA funnel, AIDA, and you can see that these map to these ABC reports. So awareness maps to your acquisition reports, interest and desire maps to behavior, and action is in your conversions report. So that's a way that might help you wrap your head around where you can find the report you want for a specific stage of the funnel. So another way to think about it is acquisition is going to give you information on people, where did they come from? Behavior is what are they doing? And conversion is how well are things working? And then you'll start to see these ABCs in all your reports. So I kind of highlighted here. So these 3 columns are all acquisition. These are behavior related numbers, and then these are conversion. So some content questions that you can answer with these reports are, what traffic sources drive the most traffic? Maybe which sites send the most referral traffic? So this is under acquisition. Behavior, it's what are the top landing pages? What content do visitors view the most? Maybe how they move around the site. And then conversions is, maybe which content pages convert the best, or which campaigns generate the most new leads. Okay, so that's enough for the review. Now we're gonna get into the meat of this, what you were really interested in. I know I promised 5 things to track. Well, today you get a little bit of a bonus. I couldn't narrow it down. So you actually are gonna get 7 things to track. You don't need to write all these down. Well, this is being recorded, but we're gonna go through each of these one at a time. But I wanna start with number 1, organic traffic trends. So this is just looking at your organic traffic over an extended period of time to see what the trend is. Is it working? Is it not working? So this is important because we know that content marketing takes time. This isn't like running paid ads where we can get leads, like in a day. Content marketing can take months, sometimes years to have an effect. So you want to know how your trend is, which direction it's trending, so you can see if your strategy and your execution is working. So for each of these, I'm gonna show you the report here. This is kind of like the breadcrumb. So you would go to the behavior report, site content, and landing pages. So that's how we're gonna look at these trends. So when we do that, we're gonna do 3 things here to create this report. So first, we need to add a segment. So we're gonna add, or I should say add an organic traffic segment, because we wanna know how these we want to know people that are coming from organic search. Then over here, you want to set a decent time frame to look at. Now, this is like 4 years. You don't need to go that wide, but I would say at least 6 months to a year, just to get an idea if things are trending up or trending down. So this is what you want it to look like. So you have visits here around like 2,000, and now your visits from organic search are up near whatever this is. 5,500 something. Now the opposite is if you see something like this. So here your organic traffic, it's falling over time. I mean, yeah, there's a couple spikes, but this is where you need to then take a deeper dive into your reports and start looking at specific pages. So the action steps for this one are, if that trend is going up, great job. Keep up the good work, keep doing what you're doing. If that trend is going down, you need to start looking for specific pages that have the biggest declines, and let's take steps to improve them. So number 2 thing that you should track is your traffic champs. So these are your pieces of content. I'll just call them blog posts. These are the ones that are performing the best and bringing in the best and the most traffic to your site. So these are your highest value content assets, and they indicate to you the topics that visitors care about the most. So the report that we use for this, it's going to be the same one as we were just looking at: behavior, site content, landing page. And again, we have to add that organic traffic segment. And then one additional step is, assuming we're looking at your blog content, I want to find the top blog posts. Well, I have a directory in my URL /blog. So we're going to come up here. We need to filter for just the blog posts. And then we'll see, most of you will see like either maybe 1 to 5 posts that are head and shoulders above the rest of them. So for this example, there's these 3 are all well, maybe this one too, but these 3 get the most organic traffic. So what we want to do with those, then we want to think of those traffic champs. They're kind of like highways. They're like highways through your website. So this is where the most people are entering your site organically. So you want to get your best billboard on that highway, right? You wouldn't put a billboard on a little dirt road that 5 or 10 people drive on every day. So your billboards are your best calls to action. So you want to link from these traffic champs to either your highest converting pages, maybe to a lead magnet form, to a service page, whatever makes the most sense. Send people that arrive on these over to the next step. You also want to put these posts in heavy social media rotation. If these are popular organically through organic search, they're probably going to be popular in social too. So just put them out there. And then if you have an email newsletter, share these posts in there too. You want to keep building the traffic to these. Now, the third thing we want to track, it's almost the opposite of traffic champs. It is falling stars. These are popular blogs that have declining organic traffic. So they were once popular, but now they're losing traffic for whatever reason. Well, these are important to know because that is valuable content that's slowly fading away. And I mean, you're losing visitors to your site because those pages maybe aren't ranking as well anymore and not getting the clicks. So the report for this one, it's the same one, behavior, site content, landing pages. But this time we're going to add a date comparison to this, because here's how we're going to see quickly which posts are declining the most. So in this case, I'm looking at an entire month. It's just the month of December. And then you click compare to, you can't see it here, but there's a little pull down that says compare to previous year. So that's what we're doing. We're doing a year over year. And then what you'll see here is the percentage. And since we're looking for falling stars, we're looking for ones with the biggest drops, popular posts with big drops. Now, this is almost your worst case scenario. This is their 3 biggest blog posts, and they're all dropping. So it's kind of hard to see, but there's a 31% drop. Here's a 25%, 33%. If I saw something like this, I might think that maybe this was due to a Google algorithm change, but whatever the cause, we need to dig into these. So when you look at an individual one of these, what you'll kind of see is this downward trend. But there's ways that we can fix these pages and kind of rescue them. So we can improve the quality of these pages. That's the action step by adding any or all of these. So add images, get videos on there, beef up your statistics. If you have any original research, you definitely want to add that. Have strong opinions and have contributor quotes. Get other people involved, and then they wouldn't necessarily help with organic, but they would definitely hopefully share it on social media. So you want to make these changes, and then hopefully you would turn things around, and then you would get that trending back up. Excuse me, I had to take a drink of water. Search Console. Now you may not be familiar with that term. It's formerly Google Webmaster Tools. It was rebranded a couple of years ago. But in here, we can see queries, that's search queries, and landing pages. So why are these important to look at? Because you can see actual keywords that drove Google organic clicks to your site. And we also get some average SERP rankings, search engine result page, That's what SERP is. Rankings of relevant keywords and landing pages. One thing I should note, to get this information into Google Analytics, you're going to have to connect your Search Console to GA. But once you've made that connection, oh no, sorry, all right, hold on, lost the presentation. Let's try this again. Oh, Microsoft. So we were talking about Search Console. Okay, I'm almost back. Hope everybody's still with me. Let's get back to here. Dennis, are you still there?
Yeah, we can see back to your title slide.
Okay, just trying to, I've rescued it, just getting back to, we believe we were on number 4, Search Console, and okay. Not sure what happened, but we're back.
Excellent.
Okay, so here we go. So here's the reports. Once you've connected these, you're going to go into the acquisition, Search Console, and then queries, or acquisition, Search Console, landing pages. So now what we're going to do, I'll show you one of these reports and what we're going to do. So this is the query report. And in the first column, these are actual keywords that the people clicked, because you can see this first column is clicks, here's impressions, and here's a click-through rate. So these are actual keywords, but what we're looking for is ones that are almost ranking. So we want to look for queries that are almost ranking on page 1. So if you are on page 1, then this position would be 1 through 10. So we want to look at the average position that's greater than 10, and usually right around like 11, 12, 13. So this will identify keywords that are almost ranking. So that's how we can use the queries report. Then we're going to do a similar thing for the landing page report in here. We're going to filter by, I can't see the filter box here, but we would add a filter of average position greater than 10. And then we're going to, so here, there's a whole bunch that are at 11 and 12. So these blog posts, we can make improvements to these to hopefully bump up this ranking and get on page 1, because we know that page 2 is, you don't have a chance of being seen. I forget the old SEO joke. Where's the best place to hide a dead body? On page 2 of Google's search results, because nobody ever goes there. So if we want to, now that we've identified those landing pages that are almost ranking and those keywords, we can make the same kind of improvements that we did for our falling stars. So adding videos, original research, strong opinions, and you don't have to add all of these, but definitely add elements of these to improve those pages. The 5th thing that we want to measure is campaigns. Now there's 2 components to this, the way I look at it. There's what's called just the campaign name, that's like your back to school content, or your Mother's Day content, or that type of thing. And then there's the campaign sources. This is where you're sharing that content, whether it's email, social media, that kind of thing. So being able to track this is important, because we want to know the big categories and topics of content that are performing best with our audience. And then we want to know which traffic sources are driving that traffic. So campaigns you can find in the acquisition report, campaigns, and then all campaigns. Now, earlier I mentioned something about needing to use UTM campaign tags. That's the only way to get this information into Google Analytics. So here is how to build a link with campaign tags, because all you're doing is you're adding some extra links to the end of the link that you're sharing. So you would enter the URL that you want to share. For campaign source, you're going to enter a name here. So this is an email one, so I'm going to call this email newsletter. Your medium would be source. campaign name is whatever you call it. And then you copy this link, and that's what you share in your email or in your social media or that kind of thing. Now, once you've added these tags, you get information in this campaigns report. So if we look here, there's a content roundup campaign. Here's a specific newsletter day campaign. They've got some challenges that they were doing. So you can kind of compare your types of campaigns here. So in this case, it looks like roundups are a little more popular than some of the other ones. Now, this is just the high level campaign. If we want to dig into the campaign sources that are doing well, we need to add a secondary dimension. So that's this column of source and medium. And now we can see, now we have the campaign here, but then also where that was shared. So this one isn't the greatest example because these are mostly email. Here's one social here. The next slide, you'll get a better idea. So how we can use this is we want to compare, pick one campaign and then see how it does across different sources. So here, my campaign is just simply blog post. You can keep it generic. This is just every time you share a blog post, you can call it that. But then I'm sharing across 3 social networks here. I've got LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. So in this case, for the blog posts, it looks like we're getting more visitors on LinkedIn. So, we can either double down on LinkedIn, or we can maybe see if we can get more traffic on these other sites by doing something a little bit different. And tracking campaigns, why this is useful is because, once you find your most successful campaigns, that content is working. So, using the 80-20 principle, create more of that content around those ideas because people obviously like it and find it useful. If you find traffic sources that are performing well, focus your efforts on those, whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, email, whatever the situation. Okay, now we get some bonus material. 6, I'm calling this other content or maybe non-blog content. So, the internet and digital marketing has come a long way the last 20 years. It's not just text-based. Before, content marketing pretty much just meant, writing content. But these days, it's more than just blogs and text-based. We're all sharing videos, maybe we're doing audio, we've got quizzes, maybe PDFs or images we want people to download. So we want to be able to track this stuff so we can know which content types are most important for our business. So to be able to see this content and how people are interacting with it, we would go to behavior, events, and top events. And now this is where I mentioned to get events into your Google Analytics, you need to set these up in Google Tag Manager. And we don't have enough time today to go into that. But if you need help with that, feel free to reach out to me later. And I can help you get those set up. But once you have events set up, in this report, you'll start to see some of this other content. So here, I highlighted 2 pieces of content, YouTube. So this is all of our YouTube video interactions. And then here, this site had downloads. So, PDFs, that kind of thing. And if we clicked on that YouTube one, the kind of information that you could see is, how many times people started playing the video, maybe how far they reached in the video, that kind of information. So, these additional content event measurements are super important especially because, video and audio and some of these other things, they can be expensive. So you want to be able to track this stuff so you can prove to your bosses that, yeah, you're making a difference. So action steps here, we want to find our popular content, the topics and the types, so is it video? Is it audio? Is it something else? And then like you do in a normal content strategy, repurpose things that are working. So take those popular topics, if they're text-based, turn it into a video, turn it into a PDF, make a quiz out of it, just try different things. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, we touched on this a little bit, number 7, it's audience segments. So every single report that you look at in Google Analytics, to get the most insight out of it, you want to look through the lens of specific audience segments. So if you're not familiar with what a segment is, it's just a subset of, a bigger group. So if all of these people are visiting your website, you really want to know like what these people are doing and what these people are doing. So the reason why segments are important is because your data, your website data, it's just a big mix of traffic sources, people doing different things, and expected outcomes. So the only way to get meaningful insights is you've got to separate that data into segments, to find out what's really going on. If any of you are familiar with Avinash Kushik, he's a longtime data analytics evangelist. He has a great saying that relates to this. And that is that all data in aggregate is crap. That's just another way of saying you need to be segmenting your data. You can't look at a big group of data. You need to look at subsets. You need to dig deeper into that data. There's a couple ways you can do that. So this column here on the left, these are, Google calls them system segments. They're just the default ones. So these are pre-made. They're already in the tool, things like organic traffic, which we used earlier. You can look just at paid traffic. Maybe you just want to look at mobile. And then this column, these are ones that you might want to create. So these are custom and you have to build these and add them to your report. So if you want to just look at email traffic, maybe you just are interested in desktop. Some of the ones, so out of all of these, ones that I think are pretty useful for content producers, really for anyone, I'm always looking at organic traffic because we want to know how we're doing in organic search. I like looking at mobile traffic only because that experience is very different than desktop. You've got a different screen size. People are in different locations, maybe. They're in a different frame of mind. So I like looking at mobile. Blog consumers, this would just be a segment of people that have looked at least at one blog page, because they might act differently than people that never read your blog. So that could be useful. And then if you run any kind of service that is location specific, whether that's city or state and possibly country, you might find something really interesting here. So where I see it specifically is people that serve only, say, one state. So say like the state of Wisconsin. If you segment and look at what people are doing that are just from Wisconsin, you might find, or you probably will find, it's very different than just looking at the combined aggregate data. People in your service area, a lot of times they're just going to your homepage, your About Us, and your service pages. They may not even read your content, but if you looked at everybody else, they're coming in, reading your content and none of your other pages. So you need to be able to separate out that behavior. So just a quick showing of how you add segments in any report. You click a thing here that says add segments. And then I said you have two options. So here, this is the default one. So you would just pick one of these. If you want to create a new one, you have to go into this new segment and then build it. I'm not going to show you that today because that can get a little involved. But once you've added a segment, it'll show up now in your report. So here I'm looking at a mobile segment. This orange line here is my mobile traffic. And then when you go into the data table, you'll see the mobile traffic or your segment you're interested in broken out here. And then it's also down here in each individual row. You can add up to, you can compare segments. You can add up to 4. I think I just have 3 here. mobile, desktop, and tablet, but you could add a fourth segment, and then you can quickly kind of compare how users do across the two segments. I'm trying to think if anything jumps out here. Well, so here the desktop traffic spends more. They're almost 4.7 pages per visit, whereas mobile's only 3.6. So you can start to see behavior differences here. So with regards to segments, your action steps here are, note the content topic or type that is working best for each segment, because they could be different. And you want to then do more of what's working for each particular segment. Another thing that I like to always know is where are these particular audience segments entering your site? So I mentioned the location-based segment. So, maybe your service area visitors, your Wisconsin visitors, if you serve Wisconsin, they may enter at your homepage. But if you looked at all of the US, those people probably enter on your blog. So those people have different expectations and a different experience. And if you can separate that out with a segment, you'll be better off. Let's do a quick recap here. We talked about organic traffic trends. That's just a high level, looking at your organic traffic trends over a longer duration of time to see if things are going up or going down. Traffic champs, we're identifying your top, 3 to 5 blog posts. These are your highest value assets. You want to link from these to your best converting pages, get your best calls to action on these pages, share these in social media and email. Falling stars, these are popular blog posts that are losing traffic, so you want to rescue them. Search Console, here's where you can find information about how things are doing in Google search, and you can find things that are almost ranking and do things to fix them. Campaigns, we talked about how to find the best campaigns compared to other ones, and the campaign sources. Other content, that's tracking non-text-based things, non-blogs, so videos, PDFs, quizzes, that type of thing. And then we talked about audience segments, looking through the lens of subsets of your data to get better insights. And these things should help you kind of function as a dashboard. And as a dashboard here, helps you guide you when you're driving your car. Google Analytics can help guide your content marketing efforts, because at the end of the day, what you don't want to be doing is just kind of, throwing things blindfolded, against the wall and hope you get a bullseye. That's no way to do your marketing. So that's it for my, 7 things to track. Gave you a couple bonuses. And now, if people want to stick around, Dennis, I'm happy to take questions.
Sounds good. We got one just now in the chat. Is there a way to limit how many goals you can create and save in GA?
A way to limit it?
Oh, no, sorry. Is there a limit? Is there a limit to the number of goals?
Yes. I believe the number of goals is, I think it's 20 per view. And there's tricks you can do to, you can combine some goals. And if you're butting up against that limit, I would say maybe combine some things and then separate it out later. So you can reduce the number of goals, or if you really need to, you could create another view of your data, and now you can create 20 more goals. But yeah, there is a limit, and I've seen some people hit it, and then you might have to edit then. But yeah. So hopefully that helps.
So Kyle, when you say create another view, what does that mean? What is a view?
A view is just another, I wonder if I don't have a slide here. That's where you see your data. Typically where you would create, you can create up to, want to say like 25 views. So an example of that might be, say you have a subdomain, like maybe you have, I don't know, services.website.com or something, and you only wanted to see the services pages. You didn't want to see any of the other ones in Google Analytics. You could create a view, a separate view, and then add a filter to that only shows you the service subdomain. So like that's a reason where you might want to separate it. Sometimes if you have different teams that maybe you don't want people to have access to what the other team can see, you can create separate views. A good one is, we talked about location things. You might want to have a separate view that only has the data for a specific location, country, states, city, that type of thing. Oh, and I should mention too, kind of the best practice when it comes to views is usually you set up 3. So you have a primary view, which is, that's the one you use for all of your data and your analysis. Then you have a test view. That's kind of like a sandbox. So that's where you're testing things out that permanently alter your data. So that's, that can be if you're setting up filters, or if you're trying to see if you set up a goal correctly. You can do it in the test view, and it's not affecting anything in your primary view. Once you've proven it out, you can just duplicate that setup in the primary view. And then the third view that it's recommended to have is just like a backup view. So it would be, you would have no filters on it. It's completely unfiltered. It's your raw data, and you would never even use it. It's strictly there as a backup. But if you screw something up in your primary view, you still have that data sitting there, the raw data that you can check in the third view. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Google Analytics is set up, and I know Kyle knows this. There's kind of 3 things. There's your account, and then there's your website property, and then there's the views.
Yeah.
And so I have one client that's got 3 different brands, 3 different websites.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have one account. So anybody that has access to the account can see all 3 different websites. They each have their own views.
Yeah, and that's, I've run into that before. That they should have set that up differently. So you should set up in separate properties so that people wouldn't be able to access that stuff. So yeah, here's the views here that we were talking about. And if you want to create another view, you just click here, create view, and then it'll take you through a couple setups. And then when you click this pull down here, you'll see all your different views. So that's how that works. Any other questions?
Excellent.
Dennis?
Yeah, any other questions? Fire away.
So you didn't put direct mail as one of those sources of traffic that you don't know people, unless you set something up that people know where it's coming from.
I mean, there's ways to do that, but that gets a little tricky. And I don't know if most people are gonna need to set that up.
Unfortunately, you're right. Unfortunately, yeah. I use UTM parameters is really the best way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you can track offline activities, but you have to then start using like, I'm blanking out on the term, those unique URLs, vanity URLs, and then put in put in like a redirect, but that redirect will have UTM tags. So it's a lot of extra work, and I don't necessarily know how much benefit it gets.
A lot. There's a lot of benefit. That's Dennis.
All right, then maybe have you presented on that? I would love to see that.
You got it. You just have your regular URL that just redirects with your UTM parameters.
Yeah. I'm surprised nobody brought it up. Google Analytics 4. Are you guys aware of this?
Tell us about it.
The newest product. So I'm still learning it, but it came out. It was in beta the fall of 2019. I believe it's officially out of beta now. For a while, it was called Google Analytics App plus Web. They rebranded it late last year as Google Analytics 4. And it is the biggest thing to happen to Google Analytics in 15 years. It is a complete reimagining of analytics. What it's based off of, if anybody ever did any work with apps, it's kind of based off their Firebase product, which was their Firebase analytics. So they're making the tracking more like how they tracked apps, but they're also applying it to websites. So the biggest thing is instead of like page views, because Universal Analytics is page view based. Now everything in GA4 is event based. So even what we're calling a page view is an event. The user interface is completely different. The number of reports is different. Things are organized differently. There's a lot of advantages to it. They're adding new things every day. Probably the biggest takeaway, if you're not aware of it yet, is they're two completely different data models. So you can't set up GA4 and merge that data with your current analytics. We don't know when they're ever going to pull the plug on Universal. It's probably going to be in a couple years. But they're definitely moving everybody over to GA4. If you go into any of your accounts now and try to set up a new property, the default is GA4. So the recommendation is, as soon as you can, set up a GA4 property running in parallel to your existing analytics. But you're not really going to use it for reporting and analysis. You just want to start collecting historical data. So a year from now, when the product is a lot more solid and maybe they get rid of UA, you'll have a year's worth of data instead of starting from scratch. So that's kind of the quick 5-minute. If people are interested, Dennis, I can put together just a list of resources and links to learn more about this. But it's coming, and you'll start to see more and more people talking about it.
Yeah, a list of resources would be great.
Okay, cool.
Just a really very technical question. Is it browser specific? Because I have noticed a lot of browser specific issues with some other things. I wonder.
Not that I know of. I mean,
Chrome, IE is good. Everything's.
I can't give a perfect answer because it's so early in its rollout that we still don't even know everything that's working or broken. But I don't know of any browser specific things yet. In general, I notice Google products don't always play nice with, say, like Firefox. I don't know about IE and some of the other ones, but I know so I use all of their products like Data Studio, Tag Manager. If I'm ever in Firefox, I've noticed glitches. And then the minute I open it up in Chrome, it works fine. So it's possible that there could be some issues, but like I said, it's in heavy development. They're coming out with new stuff every day.
Just a side note, in my estimation, US-based government agencies like the census, say, are very mired in Microsoft products, and which is fine. And they are pervasive across the US and so on. Chrome doesn't work so well with some things. So
that's good to know.
Wondering. It seems to be a trend across decades now.
Okay.
Well, an interesting thing is Microsoft, they've kind of discontinued support pretty much for Internet Explorer. And
Right.
last year they moved their primary browser, Edge, over to the same Chromium, open source Chromium engine that Chrome uses. So a lot of those issues might be going away.
Okay.
Oh,
Web developers love it because Internet Explorer was awful. It did
was.
not, yeah, it was awful from how it displayed websites. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
not very non-standard. So the world's getting better for website developers.
And Kyle, real quick on GA4, do you have to update any tags on your website to enable it?
That is a great question. So yeah, it's very similar to how you would set up just a regular current analytics setup. There's basically two options. You can create, well, you have to do, so here, I was gonna show you. Am I still sharing?
We see the sand.
Oh, all right, let me go here. All right,
Yeah,
how about that?
okay.
Okay,
we
so
see
let me
that,
show you. In fact, I'll use if you guys have access to the Google demo account, so it's just called demo account. Everyone should be able to log into this. They added, so if you want to see what it looks like, they added Google Analytics 4 properties here. But let me just show you real quick how you would set it up. Basically, you can do it through Tag Manager. So there's 2 tags you need to add, or you can put code on your site. So let me just go to so here I would have to create a property. And then now here it's asking me, this is how you set up the GA4. Now, if you still want to set up the old one, you can, but it's buried here in this show advanced options. But you could click on that and go through these steps and still create a UA property. But they're trying to guide everybody away from this, any new properties. As part of the links I can send out, there's, if you guys are interested, there's a couple classes out there explaining all this stuff. So I'm tapped into some of the networks of people that are on the front line of this GA4 stuff. So I get the information secondhand, but I get it quicker than a lot of people.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Kyle. And with that, I think we're out of time. So Kyle, thanks for joining us today, and thanks everyone for attending. We'll be back next week. So check the meetup page for subsequent meetups.
Thanks, everybody. And feel free to reach
everyone.
out to me anytime. Yeah. Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, everyone.
See you, Kyle. See you, Dennis.
See you guys.
See you, Todd.